Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to do a quick video about fear because something that came up the other day with my daughter. So my daughter was going to have one of the COVID tests at school before they allowed her back into school, which was today. Her first day back was today. So yesterday, my daughter and my son both had to go and get a COVID test before they then were tested. If the result is negative, then they're allowed to attend school today. And it was really interesting because there were two fears that really cropped up with my daughter. The first one was actually having the test. Is it going to be scratchy on her nose or her throat? She didn't really know what was involved in the test. So that was one thing. And the second fear was really just about going back to school itself. So actually just the act of returning to school, because she's been so used to working from home, being a homeschooling in effect, that just that whole change of going back to school again just created a bit of anxiety. So there was that second fear that came up. And it really reminded me of some of my sort of fears from younger days and even present fears that sort of came up. And one of the posts I did in the group the other day was my wife's car wouldn't start. So it had potentially a flat battery. And I remember just I was transported back again to this, with this fear of electricity. I mean, I've always just hated electricity. And so jump starting a car for me is just, it's just one of those pet hates. I just don't want to do it. I'll avoid it at all costs. I've even had garages come out, mechanics come out because they've detected that I just wasn't confident in dealing with a flat battery, and they've actually even just come out and jump started a car for me, for free of charge, of course. I just have this, fear of electricity, and when I think about it, it just comes back to when I was a kid. I just remember stories my dad used to say about, fixing light sockets and fixing plug sockets. And sometimes he would do that and it either not turned the electric off, or it turned the wrong circuit off. He hadn't turned everything off, it just turned off part of the house. And a couple of times he said that he got a shock. And one time, I just vividly remember he said he got a shock from a light socket and it threw him across the room. Actually threw him physically across the room. So this has stayed with me for all my life. And so it's no wonder maybe I've got this attachment of, fear to electricity. So yeah, really interesting anyway. And so what I did with the car situation was, I decided, hang on a second, I've got this fear, so I talk about fear a lot in some of the courses I've done, for example. And with any fear, you've got to work out, is it a real fear or is it not real? Is it a rational fear or is it an irrational fear? Now, obviously having a fear of being, having a massive electric shock is a real fear. You don't want to do that. Fear is there to serve us, to protect us, isn't it? It's not there, so you've just got to work out if it's a real fear or not a real fear, and then is it rational or irrational. So obviously what I did with the car, I wasn't going to mess around this time. I faced my fear, went and got the jump leads. I did a quick Google search of jump in a car, just because I'd heard some horror stories if you do something the wrong way round, and some diesel cars are different and stuff like that. So I did a quick check on YouTube, jump started the car, no problem at all. Wasn't even nervous doing it. So it just goes to show you that once you've made that mental leap, that decision to face your fear, when I actually did it, I wasn't actually afraid at all, So I hope you can get what I mean there. So facing my fear made it just completely disappear in the moment. So that was just something interesting that happened to me the other day. So as with most fears, and the same with that example with me, it really comes down to a choice, because they're the only things we can control, isn't it? Our thoughts and our actions. So if you can either make the choice to face your fear, so maybe it's something that has to be overcome. So in the situation with the car, I could have maybe got the garage to come and jump started it again, but I'd have felt like a right idiot doing that again. And I just knew in my head it was one of those fears I need to overcome. Or it could be a fear where you just want to push past it. So the same with me with the car. You know, it had to be overcome, but there was a way I could get out of it if I really was scared. But I had that desire to push past it. I wanted to move past this fear. And of course, there's always the chance when you're faced with any fear that you're not going to push yourself past it. And that's fine, isn't it? I'm not making any judgments if you've got fears and you're not pushing past them, of course. But what you've got to recognise is that if you have a fear and you don't face it, you don't tackle it, you don't approach it, that fear is always going to be there. And generally what I've found is that fear will just grow. You know, the more you're faced with that situation, the more the fear is just going to build up, and you're never going to jump start a car ever, or never going to do whatever it is you wanted to do. And I've done lots of things like that in the past, facing your fears. And, you know, I think it was about 1.5 years ago, I did my second parachute jump. So it was the first time I'd actually done a tandem jump. So it was a lot higher. I'd done a previous static line jump from about 1,000 feet. Well, this one was from like 12,000 feet, something, you know, ridiculous like that. And that was a classic example of, I'm scared of heights anyway, so I have that fear. And that's it's a rational fear to be scared of being high up, but it's irrational in the sense that if I'm strapped to a trained parachute instructor, I'm going to be okay, aren't I? Or pretty much, 99% of the time, hopefully. And that still didn't stop me having the fear. But again, one thing that can help you get past that fear is, well, I knew I wanted to do it. I wanted to push past that fear. But also for me, and the parachute jump is a classic, and I've also done things like bungee jumps, is trying to remember or get the feeling of what you will feel like once you've faced that fear. Okay, so especially if you've already done it before, then you're going to have previous history, previous knowledge, aren't you? So I knew, having done one parachute jump in the past, that when I do this second one, I knew that I was going to be absolutely buzzing. I was going to be flying for 2 days solid. And it was true, So that was one thing that kept me going, was I'm going to have this amazing experience. I'm going to have this amazing feeling afterwards. And I did. And it felt absolutely amazing. So sometimes if you've got that fear, just try and think of what it will feel like once you've conquered your fear, once you've faced your fear. And so why not post below here any fears you've got. I'd love to actually hear about them. If there's any way I could help you face some of those fears. Maybe I'm thinking maybe of doing some sort of confidence or fear-based challenge where we can sort of tackle some of our fears together in the privacy of this group. So if you think that's a good idea, let me know. Maybe list a fear or two of yours, and whether you think having some sort of confidence fear challenge would be a good idea. I'd really like to hear from you, and I hope you have a fantastic evening. All the best. Hope that's useful. See you soon. Bye.